Ready for a trip. Not your average vacation, though. We're diving into some really trippy stuff today.
Trippy is a good word for it. We're talking about the idea that Western civilization, like the very foundations of our society, might be rooted in psychedelic experiences.
It's a mind-blowing concept. I mean, we're talking ancient Greece here, Plato, Socrates, the whole philosophical gang. But what's the actual evidence that they were using something, mind-altering?
Well, it all starts with these super secret rituals called the Eleusinian Mysteries. They went on for centuries in ancient Greece, and people who experienced them, they described these like intense visions, feelings of oneness with the universe, even encounters with the divine.
Okay, that sounds pretty intense, but how do we know it wasn't just like the power of suggestion? They're in this grand temple chanting, burning incense.
That's where the evidence gets really interesting. See, at the Eleusis site, archaeologists found these kernels sprouting from cereal grain, and that's a telltale sign of ergot.
Ergot. That's a fungus, right?
You got it. And it's notorious for its psychedelic properties.
And guess what a key ingredient was in the kaikion, that special drink they used in the Eleusinian Mysteries?
Don't tell me. Cereal grain.
Bingo! It's like finding a bong in a monastery and saying, well, looks like someone was having a meditative moment.
Laughing. Okay, maybe not exactly the same thing, but it does make you wonder, right? And here's the thing. This wasn't just some isolated Greek thing. We found similar evidence in other places, like Spain.
Spain. Okay, now I'm really intrigued. Tell me more.
So there's this place, Emporion, a Greek colony in Spain, where they unearthed these ceremonial vessels that look a lot like the ones used to mix the kaikion in Greece.
So they were importing their rituals, bringing their traditions with them. That makes sense.
But it gets even weirder. There's another site in Spain, Mas Castelar de Pontos, with clear Greek influence. So this one's got some really intense vibes. Think skull cults and what they call graveyard beer.
Graveyard beer. You're going to have to elaborate on that one.
So picture this. Archaeologists are excavating, and they find this tiny chalice next to a jawbone. They analyze the residue, and guess what they find? Barley, honey, and ergot.
No way. So we're talking intentionally brewed, psychoactive beer, left as an offering, potentially consumed in rituals.
It's a strong possibility. Yeah. And it speaks to this widespread practice of intentionally creating and consuming mind-altering substances in different cultures and time periods.
Yeah.
But why go to all this trouble? What was the purpose of incorporating these experiences into their rituals? What were they trying to achieve?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? To understand that, we need to talk about someone who knew a thing or two about altered states. Dionysus, the Greek god of wine, ecstasy, and, well, let's just say experiences that go beyond your average happy hour.
Now we're getting to the good stuff.
Dionysus, the god of wine and ecstasy. He knew how to throw a party, right?
Yeah.
But you're suggesting his parties were more than just your average kegger.
Oh, definitely more than just a kegger. The ancient Greeks took their rituals seriously, and the Dionysian Mysteries were known for their intensity. We're talking frenzy, ecstatic trances, experiences that went way beyond just having a few too many glasses of wine.
So what were they drinking? Something a little stronger than your average Chardonnay?
Well, they had this drink called akritos, which means uncut wine. Basically, super strong wine, maybe even with some extra ingredients thrown in for good measure. And when you look at the descriptions of what people experienced during these rituals...
Visions, out-of-body experiences, that kind of thing.
Exactly. It all points to something more than just your average fermentation. And the thing is, we're finding archaeological evidence that supports this idea. Like in Egypt, they found wine jars dating back to 3150 BC that had traces of psychoactive herbs mixed in.
Whoa, so they were spiking the punch bowl way back then, but why? What was the point of adding these other ingredients, these mind-altering substances, to the wine?
Well, it's all about tapping into those altered states of consciousness. And this wasn't just an Egyptian thing either. There's this ancient Canaanite ritual called Marseille.
Marseille, tell me more.
It involved this symbolic journey to the underworld. And guess what they believe facilitated this journey?
Drugged wine.
You got it. It's like they were using these substances to, like, rip open the veil between this world and the next.
That's intense. But how does this all connect back to Western civilization? We've gone from Greece to Egypt to ancient Canaan.
And now we're going to bring it back to something a little closer to home. Early Christianity.
Wait a minute. Are you saying there's a connection between these ancient rituals involving psychedelics and Christianity?
It's a controversial theory, no doubt, but there are some striking similarities between the Dionysian Mysteries, these other ancient rituals, and the practices of early Christians.
Okay, I'm listening. Lay it on me.
Think about it. Yeah. The Last Supper, The Eucharist, the bread and wine, these are central to Christian tradition. But what if, in those very early days, those elements, especially the wine, weren't just symbolic?
Okay, you've got my attention. What are you suggesting?
What if they were using something a little extra to enhance those religious experiences, to connect with the divine in a more direct way?
You're saying that early Christian gatherings might have been more like psychedelic communion?
It's a bold claim, right? But there's evidence to back it up, and some of the most compelling evidence comes from, of all places, the Roman catacombs.
The catacombs, those underground tunnels where they buried the dead.
Exactly. Specifically, the frescoes in the Hypogeum of the Aurelii. These frescoes depict scenes that have clear connections to both Roman funerary banquets and the Christian Eucharist. But there are some very intriguing details that suggest something more was going on.
Okay, I'm hooked. What kind of details are we talking about?
Well, for starters, you have all this imagery associated with Circe. Remember her?
Circe, the sorceress who turned Odysseus's men into pigs. What's she doing in the Roman catacombs?
That's the million-dollar question. Her presence there, alongside these scenes of banquets and rituals, suggests a possible link between these early Christian gatherings and older, more mystical traditions involving altered states of consciousness.
So are we suggesting that early Christians were drawing on both pagan and Christian traditions, maybe even blending them in their rituals?
It's a compelling interpretation. And there's another striking detail in these frescoes: the role of women.
Oh, interesting. How so?
They're not just passive observers in these scenes. They're depicted actively preparing and administering the Eucharist, suggesting a central role in these early Christian communities.
That's fascinating, especially when you think about how those psychedelic experiences we've been discussing were often associated with female deities like Persephone and figures like Circe. It's like this thread of feminine power and mystical knowledge is woven through this whole story.
It's a powerful theme. But as we move forward in history, this thread starts to unravel a bit. The Church's stance on these practices begins to shift, and we see a gradual suppression of the original Eucharist and the marginalization of women in religious leadership.
Wait, what happened? Why the sudden change?
Well, it's a complex process, but a big part of it seems to be about power. As the Church became more institutionalized, it wanted to solidify its control. And anything that challenged that control, like these ecstatic mystical experiences or the prominent role of women, was seen as a threat.
So we've gone from ancient rituals and hidden frescoes to the modern world. Where do we go from here? What's next for this whole psychedelic revival?
That's the exciting part. We're in uncharted territory in a lot of ways. The research is exploding, with new studies coming out all the time, looking at everything from psilocybin for depression to MDMA for PTSD.
It's amazing to think that substances that were once demonized and driven underground are now being studied in prestigious labs and universities around the world. What do you think sparked this shift?
I think it's a confluence of factors. The limitations of our current mental health treatments are becoming increasingly apparent. People are searching for new answers, new ways to heal and grow.
And science is finally starting to catch up with what many traditional cultures have known for centuries, that these substances, when used responsibly and with intention, can be powerful tools for healing and transformation.
Right. But as we move forward, it's crucial that we proceed with both enthusiasm and caution. We can't just erase the harm that's been caused by the war on drugs and the decades of misinformation and stigma surrounding these substances.
Absolutely. We need to ensure equitable access to these treatments so they don't just become another tool for the privileged. And we need to prioritize responsible research, harm reduction, and education.
100%. We need to be mindful of the potential risks and challenges, while also remaining open to the possibilities for healing and growth that these substances offer.
It's a delicate balance to strike, but I'm hopeful that by approaching this new era with a combination of scientific rigor, cultural sensitivity, and a deep respect for these substances, we can create a future where they're used to benefit individuals and society as a whole.
Well said. It's about time we reintegrate these ancient tools into our modern world in a way that honors their power and potential, while also learning from the mistakes of the past.
This deep dive has been an incredible journey. We've uncovered hidden histories, explored controversial theories, and delved into the mysteries of consciousness itself.
It's been a fascinating conversation, to say the least.
And to our listeners, we encourage you to continue exploring, keep asking questions, and always be open to new perspectives. The journey of discovery is never truly over, especially when it comes to the mysteries of the human mind and the power of these extraordinary substances.
Well said. Until next time.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.